And I would ask if you would mute your phones unless you are speaking, because we get some bleed over noise and makes it hard for us to be able to hear. But let me say good afternoon to everyone and welcome to this work session, the October work session of Mayor and Council. I see we still have a few council members that have not logged on. Uh,
Somebody lost it. It was left up there.
who's talking? Okay. Let's see. That's everybody except Lamario, right? Carla. Lamario and Carla.
I just text both of them, man.
You did? Okay. Let's give it maybe about 2 minutes, and then we will go ahead with the preliminaries with the invocation and all of that. They may be having some issues logging on. Um, so um, we got everybody has their agenda that has been sent to them, but I'm sure that Miss Wright will probably also be sharing that with us if necessary. So we will move right along. Let me welcome everybody here. I think we could go ahead and open with the word of prayer, and then the others will be coming and logging on in shortly, I'm sure. Let's bow our heads. Um, Father, we come to you at the end of the day, um, and it has been a long day, but a fruitful day. We thank you for you sparing us throughout this and still giving us the energy and the zeal to do what we have to do in order to serve your people. We thank you for those who have assembled here this evening for this meeting. We thank you for the households that's represented here, and we thank you for the people that we represent. We ask that you continue to bless this community in this time of pandemic, even though everybody is experiencing some discomforts right now with what's going on, but yet you still have your arms wrapped around this community, and we thank you. We thank you for that. We thank you for the bit of peace that we can have in this community, and we ask that you can continue to restore that. Be with us throughout this meeting and throughout our regular meeting 2 days from now. Guide our minds, guide our tongues, guide our thoughts. Let us speak those things not for an individual personalized agenda, but speak those things that is for the benefit of the people that we serve. These are the prayers that we're asking in Jesus' name. Amen.
Man,
Okay. Now, good afternoon. We call him the baby boy in the crowd. Good afternoon, sir. Even though he says he's 55 years old, but he
Hey, good evening, man. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I will need to have a motion to approve the agenda, um, so that we could go on. And I have a couple of FYIs that I wanted to share with you before we go. That's not on the agenda, but some FYIs that I feel like are pertinent to what we need to know. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Mayor Williams, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the agenda as written with any necessary changes.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Allen and seconded by Barnes that we approve the agenda with any necessary changes that would have to be made. Um, I call for the question. No questions, I call for the vote. All in favor, let it be known by identifying yourself, and because we are pretty widespread, not everybody's face is up here where we can see your hand. All right, we'll start with myself, and I say I, Williams.
Allen, aye.
Barnes, aye.
Brown, aye.
Aye, Bryant.
Okay, Bryant, I. And so Carla has not come on yet. All that is a majority, and the motion carries. Thank you so much for that. Now, I've got a few FYIs that I want to share, and I feel like it's pertinent to all of us. The Utilities Commission met last night, and of course, we thought that each of you would be able to get a chance to see that meeting, but I think some technical difficulties were going wrong at that time. But Zach said he played it back on Facebook after that. And so we won't question that. But if you look on Facebook or you went back somewhere, somebody shared it. And so you saw most of the meeting there. Out of that meeting, I'm proud to say some appointments were made, some statements were made, and there still may be some things in the future, but some appointments were made. And one of them was in doing some things with the board, correcting that board. They appointed Mr. Marvin Crafter as vice chair of the Utility Commission. And that was voted on 4-1. Of course, the chair of the Utility Commission voted against everything that was done at that particular time. And he said because of potential litigation that some citizens are doing, and he did not want to vote at that point. We don't know. And so, but we can't stop the Utility Commission business or the work while we wait for that. That might not be resolved until 2 years from now. And so as a result, then they've got to move on, and we've got to move on, which was the reason why we made the appointments when we did. All right. The other thing is they recommended one of the commissioners to talk to Mr. Ned Watson about being an interim general manager until the general manager finishes his extended medical leave. At the time last night, we didn't have information as to how long that medical leave would be. And of course, the Utility Commission, as we said, still has to be able to function. As Mr. Crafter pointed out, it's a $24 million business. And to not have anybody at the helm is kind of risky going in that direction. And Ms. Martha McAfee was the point of contact, and she clarified that last night. She never agreed to be interim general manager. She was asked to be the point of contact between the general manager and anybody or the council at that time. And so we cleared that. We don't know what the answer is from Mr. Watson yet, and everybody knows Mr. Watson. He knows the industry and has served before, and he's experienced. And so, in order to make that organization continue along seamlessly, we all thought that was a good idea, and naturally the chair voted against that too. Of course, he voted against everything. And they appointed, or they voted to appoint Miss LaRonda Patrick, who is our city attorney and our solicitor, as the Utility Commission's attorney. Now, we voted to go back and deal with that back in 2018. We passed a resolution on that, and they never did accept it because of what was going on with House Bill 685 and litigation and all that kind of stuff. But it needs to be shown in the minutes that an action was taken, and if it's accepted, then I think Miss Patrick, we hope, has agreed to accept also. What was suggested was that Mr. Jones, Charles Jones, continue with what was being done with that bond thing with USDA. There are two bonds. There's a GFA loan and the bond thing that was open there. And that's been rocking along for about 2 years already. We had voted for it. That's for that water tank out there near Fort Valley State University for increased capacity. And then also the GFA loan and the other things was to help Peach County High School. And all of us, I think, that were there thought that needed to move along. And so Mr. Jones agreed to accept that, even though he said he's probably going to charge us more. But that's okay. As long as that gets taken care of, and we can move along. That's the USDA project and the FVSU and Peach County High project that's ongoing, and you see a lot of work going on out there. It was recommended that we proceed to requests to amend House Bill 685 to restore, and my name wasn't even called, it's the mayor's position as an ex officio commissioner with all of the voting rights of the other commissioners. That was changed in House Bill 685 by the legislature. It would have to be changed back from the legislature. Charles brought that to our attention. However, I brought it to everybody's attention. In order for you to change anything that deals with the charter or with 685, it has to be by a unanimous vote of the council. Now, it wasn't a unanimous vote of the Utilities Commission because, as we said, the chair didn't vote for anything because he said because of the potential litigation. But it's not the Utility Commission that's supposed to send that to the legislature. It's the city council. And they had it backwards the last time. So it's now time to straighten things out. So at some point, maybe at the next meeting, you may see that on your agenda for us to deal with it. And then it would go from there to the legislature, in that we've got a legislative session coming up real soon. Now, that being said, there is a hometown connection that's hosted by cities in our district each time coming up to the legislative session. And the time that they normally do this is either in October or November of each year. Slipping up on us again. Last year, Vienna did it, I think, down south of us, and here in House District 139. If we were at the Utilities Commission, we would say you command staff, but we don't say command staff. We say our leadership team talked about us hosting that this time. And so I reached out to Representative Patty Bentley to ask if she could check for some suggested dates that we may consider hosting this hometown connection this time. And when we do that, that does not take the place of what the chamber does every year when they bring in the legislative delegation to have a town hall meeting. It's just that whenever the legislative delegation gets together, they need to have our faces in their mind. When I say our faces in their mind, about the things that we have said individually to our legislative delegation that we would want done in our district, House District 139. And we don't know how the November 3rd election is going to go as far as that territory is concerned. So as soon as Representative Bentley give me suggested dates, I suggest we give it some thought, and let's have similar to what we have done before when we had all of Byron, the county, the Board of Education. We can have the Chamber of Commerce, Downtown Development Authority, all the stakeholders that makes a difference in this community to show and roll out the red carpet for our legislative delegation. I think that's a great idea. When we did this at GMA, our city administrator came up with that idea, and of course the Byron delegation said they thought it was a great idea. We came together all the time. So keep that in your mind. And the other thing, and this is the last thing, the only reason it's an FYI at this point, and it's not on your agenda, there was a planning and zoning meeting recently that was attended by several people, and I have about 200 signatures of a petition from several people in that area. The Planning and Zoning Commission came together, met on, I think it was September the 23rd or somewhere thereabout. And that board recommended to deny the rezoning request. It was for partial FO4A -332 from R2 to C2 for the purpose of putting they were going to put a convenience store there. And of course, the motion was done by Mrs. White and was seconded by Mr. Hardy. And the vote to deny that was 4 to 1. You had Cornelius, Thomas, White, and Hardy voted to deny the request for the rezoning, and one person who was last name is Ross opposed. In lieu of, and I have looked at the residents, the addresses of all the people who signed the petition in lieu of our planning and zoning board making that recommendation to us, and the outcry that we got from the citizens in those areas, and it has been verified they are actually residents of that area. We're gonna have a hearing on Thursday with the council, but I want you to bear in mind the information that I have given you pertaining to that. And I'll be glad to share the petitions. I'll be glad to share the minutes from the meeting and anything else that you would want to see. I just wanted to do that as an FYI. And the last FYI that I have is that I'm a little bit elated at our numbers of positives to the coronavirus or the COVID-19 has kind of stabilized a little bit. It started tapering off a little bit. I think earlier in the last week sometime, we had folk that had tested positive like 693, and the number of hospitalization was 107. Right after that, it went to 704 positive, still 107 hospitalization, still 24 deaths. At first, they had said 25 deaths, but it went back to 24. All right. And then a few days, maybe Sunday or yesterday was 706 and 107 hospitalizations and still 24 deaths. Today, it was 709, 107 hospitalizations and 24 deaths. So it's beginning to taper off a little bit. Now, we have some events coming up that the festival park is booked for, and I think people are wanting to get out. We have the Masonics that's doing something on the 24th, and the 25th is some kind of cook-off that they are doing, and they're going to comply with CDC guidelines. And then the evening of the 24th, the Fort Valley State National Alumni Association has requested the use of the park to have a drive-up concert, wherein people will stay in their cars or get their beach chairs out and stay in social distance, wear their masks, and they will feature the Conquest Conquest show band that night. And so we have approved the use of that. They are filling out the form, bringing their deposit. That fair that the gentleman was trying to do, we are going to let that stay on hold until maybe sometime in 2021 before we do anything with that. That will be a little bit a little bit more uncomfortable to try to monitor, and what would be monitored with driver concert. I've talked with our chief. I will be talking to our public works director about us being able to control or monitor or secure that type situation, just like we do when we are doing the food drives. And the last thing, I did say the last thing, I'm sounding like Beth Collins now, but the last thing is the last food drive that we had was awesome. It was awesome. And I want to thank all who were involved. And that was our city council, our city staff, our police department, Fort Valley PD, our public works department, the state patrolman, patrol organization, the sheriff's department, Fort Valley State University's public safety department, as well as the GBI agency, as well as pastors. All the stakeholders in the surrounding community came together, and I think we fed more people in this community than we ever had. And kudos are due to all of those who worked together to do that. Now, if we could work together on all things that way, you could not beat this little old town. So I'm pleading for us to try to do that. Now I'm gonna shut my mouth. Did anybody else have any announcements that I did not cover? By the way, Peach County High is still winning. Do we have a home game this weekend? Do we have a home game this weekend? Anybody know?
Yes, we do.
We do.
Play. Yeah,
Okay.
I think we play Pike County.
Okay, so we are still on the road, so keep doing that. And then Kyrus Jackson, who is from Peach County, a former Trojan, playing for UGA, man, he's on the road also. If you see his grandfather and his parents, say some kudos to them too. All right. Now, if there's no other announcement that we need to make, you have in your packets the minutes from all the previous meetings that were done, including the committee meetings and everything. If you want to take that out of your packet and look at those and you have something that you want to correct for that, Thursday night would be the time to do that. All right. We have a list of persons who have followed the guidelines about asking to address mayor and council. And it starts with Miss Latanya Ages, who is over the PAC committee, and she wishes to discuss funding. We had her on the agenda one time before, and she got sick and couldn't come that time. Is Miss Ages on the Zoom? Is Miss Ages anywhere on the Zoom? Okay, Miss Wright, let her know we have called out the second time, and if she's not here before this meeting is over, and she wishes to for us to do that on Thursday night, I think she still would be in line to do that, because she asked early enough. All right. Second on the one, sir. Somebody said something. Okay, they say this is away. The game is away against Pike County. Okay, thank you for correcting us on that. All right. Next, on the persons wishing to address the mayor is Mr. Ralph Davis. He wanted to discuss adopting a policy that requires businesses of adjoining properties to install a privacy fence. Is Mr. Davis on the Zoom? Is Mr. Ralph Davis on the Zoom? Okay, then we're going to go on to the next person who had requested to address the council, and that's Ms. Tiffany Bland of Department of Public Health. And she wants to establish an MOU, and that means a memorandum of understanding in reference to vendor inspection. Is Ms. Bland on the Zoom? If so, unmute yourself.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, all right.
Well, I'll just give an overview of the bill that Governor Kemp passed. This Article 14 relating to nonprofit food sales and food services. The amendment changes the responsibility of the county boards of health as it relates to permitting vendors at temporary nonprofit events. Per our discussion last week, I think we all were in agreements in regards to how we want to handle the situation in regards to food safety standards and how we want to proceed with helping you guys conduct food safety inspections.
Is that all?
Ma'am, I can tell you a little bit more. So the county or municipality is authorized to issue the permits for the operation of nonprofit food sales and food services at events sponsored by the county or municipality or an organization. So if you guys have any questions about how you want to proceed in establishing an MOU, then I have Rick Kraft. He's on the line. He's our standards director at the district, and he can give you probably a little bit more details.
Okay, Mr. Kraft, would you unmute yourself, please?
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
The biggest changes that the governor's signing of the new bill have on us is it pretty much takes the local board of health completely out of the permitting business for any nonprofit temporary vendor. So where in the past they would come to our office, fill out an application for a permit, and that was at that point it was delegated by the municipality, the city, and the county, and in most counties as well, to the boards of health to continue doing that. Well, now that has been taken completely out of our hands and is now the responsibility of the city and the county's governments to actually do that part of the permitting process. We are allowed to go do a safety inspection by request of the municipality to make sure that they are following not the Georgia Food Code, but the guidelines set by Article 14, which is the nonprofit food service portion of the OCGA. It's somewhat simplified from what our normal process would have been, but it's still adequate for the purpose. The other part of that, excuse me, is that we are not the enforcement body of that. We are merely transferring the information that we've gathered in the field by the process of an inspection to the city to say, yes, this person is completely safe, or we have identified some issues. In most cases, people will follow our recommendations to fix, but there have been times when they're like, no, I'm not doing that. And then we don't have any enforcement powers anymore. And so it's going to be relying upon the city to do that. And part of the MOU process would be to develop a system for if there is an event, and I'll just use the Peach Festival for an example. There are many different vendors that come out. You send a request to Tiffany to go out, and there's a MOU established to go out and do safety inspections. If one of those were to be found unsuitable and not safe for the public, that there's a process in place for Tiffany to relay that information to the proper authority and then have that person removed. A second part of that, which is brand new to the nonprofit food temporary setup, is we as public health or the board of health will now be able to charge an inspection fee back to the applicant as a service fee for coming out to do the inspection. That's brand new. The way the rule was written, there was no fees charged whatsoever. As it's written now, there's still no fee for a permit, but the county boards of health are authorized to charge a fee, a service fee for doing inspections. And can't speak directly for the Peach County Board of Health, but most of our counties Board of Health are very much inclined to begin doing so in the future. So that's the biggest change, and it's basically developing a process between environmental health and yourselves as to going about in a good manner to do the inspections upon request. Do you have to do those inspections? No, you do not have to. You can, as the city council, decide that just the permitting process is enough. We can also offer to those people, and we do have a program already developed, an education process to make sure that individuals are aware of what's needed. That was already part of our existing process. So, any questions?
I'd like to ask Ms. Bland one question. In lieu of what I said in my announcements about the National Alumni Association having that concert out at Festival Park. Now, I know there's a part that they have to check with the chief about, but if they're going to do, for example, if they're going to have a vendor out there, a vendor or whatever, are they too late now to get that to you for you to come and inspect it? Or do we need to just deal with that? I know your time frame is usually a little bit longer, but this is just being, okay, Mr. Chief,
Yes, ma'am. We don't have a process in place, and I think that's what this whole conversation was, the meaning we had and what we're doing now is to rectify.
okay,
As you know, we have pretty much every event that's covered in Fort Valley. We now have an ordinance for it, and Mr. correct me if I'm wrong, that creates a nexus with us having some kind of liability for it. So
okay,
we really need to come up with an MOU. What I had asked them was that they have a set MOU that we can look at and see if we can model it so that we
okay,
can what we need. But if anything happened before we had that, model would be it'll be up to us to do.
okay.
If we can some kind of way to mitigate that risk, and I think that's the smart thing.
Okay. If y'all have a draft MOU that we could get to, but now I did ask when I talked to the president of that association about the liability insurance, and they do have liability insurance, so they're okay with that. I just wanted to make sure that we don't get close to that time and then come up with some bumpers. All right, Ms. Gowan, unmute yourself. Unmute yourself. Ms. Wright, you got her muted.
I'm sorry,
Found it. Sorry,
Okay.
I was burning wood in the woods when I got the mail. I don't know if I came in too late, but here's my opinion on the thing at the festival park. Once we allow one person to do it, we're gonna have to let everybody come in and have an event there. Number
Well,
two,
Okay, go ahead.
Number
I
two,
will respond to that.
when we do the food thing, if it's our responsibility, or when they do the inspection and somebody fails it, would our MOU say they would contact the city marshal? Is that who our contact person should be? And number three, how much do you expect each person from Peach County to have to pay?
Peach County, from Peach County, they have to pay? What are you talking about?
Well, to the health department for the inspection, for the application.
Oh, for if you're doing something with the municipality, you mean?
The
Right, she
inspection
said,
fee is $50.
Okay, okay,
thank you.
all right, thank you. Now, address your first question, Carla. The reason why we have not approved anything this far is for that very reason. If we have something that we can have control over now, and it's way down, and the numbers are looking like they are looking, that's why we talked to the chief for security. We will be talking to Lopez about the parking and all that kind of stuff. It's a drive-up event, wearing masks, and everybody is going to be social distancing. If that is done and is done properly, then we could, anybody else who requests and have the same thing, then we could do that. But those guidelines are gonna have to be out.
Especially standing in line at the food tables,
No.
people.
No, here's what they do in restaurants. They put a taped off place so that you would be 6 feet apart.
Okay,
And if they are told to do that, I think they could do it, either taped or sprayed. That's what they do inside of restaurants, and we go in restaurants and any other venues. Now, when I went to vote yesterday, we weren't standing 6 feet apart. I hope, but we all had our masks on. But they normally tape off they measure off those spots that way, and they will be asked to do that, Ms. Carroll.
I'm good with that.
Okay, Chief, unmute yourself. Okay.
To be clear, what's gonna have to happen is we have to get the MOU from them, and I would get with the city attorney, and we would review it. We'd bring it back to y'all for y'all's approval. And we'd also have to look to see if we're gonna have to amend any of our current policies and ordinances. I would bring the city marshal in on that, and this is gonna be a process, and it'll probably take maybe a month or two to get everything situated. But all this stuff is gonna have to be added because this is stuff that we haven't been doing and they've been doing for us. And we really need to decide if the city. I feel like it's the best idea for the city to do it. So we need to go ahead and add it to our either ordinances or our policies that govern the parks and everything.
Thank you.
Is Fort Valley State gonna have a homecoming? And do we
No.
have to have everything in place by then?
No, they're not gonna have a homecoming, but the alumni are trying to have a weekend with an event with the Conquest Band. That's what they would normally do during homecoming, but Fort Valley State is not going to have. They are scared to death to expose the students out. So that's why they are eliminating that. And I do want to say, this is not just with this kind of event that Mr. Postel, and I want to give kudos to him because I see him standing up there. He's a good man. He smiles a lot, but he don't play. I've seen him give a ticket to somebody it was an illegal vendor, and I've seen him do that, but he doesn't play. He's going to enforce, and everybody needs to know that so that we do the right thing. Okay, any other comments on that?
Just one more comment, Ms. Barber. We need to be
Yes, sir.
clear that we have certain events that we co-sponsor with organizations, and then there's certain events that y'all can deem based upon the ordinance as city-sponsored events. And especially for those city-sponsored events, we're responsible for that. So just something we need to be thinking about as we get ready to go into this process.
Thank you. Thank you. And this thing that the Masons are doing, we just need to make sure what we are talking about trying to get in place, we make sure we have that in place too, before they do that event. Jeff Doze and those are doing something called Smoking in the Valley or something of that nature. And I have no idea that Jeff wouldn't follow CDC guidelines. But let's just make sure that we have that taken care of. Okay, any other comments about that?
Madam Mayor, if I may, this is Rick Kraft.
Yes, sir.
Just to one of your questions about the MOU, you asked if there was one that was already on template. We do not. This is as new to us as it is to you.
Okay.
This is something that we found out just prior to the signing by the governor in August that it was put into effect.
Okay.
So we have not worked up a template yet. We are working to do so. But I also want to just point out too that the way the law is written, you do not have to ask us for any assistance if you so desire. But we can definitely set up something that regular vendors that you have on a regular basis that come through the town can get the education from the Department of Health through Tiffany at the local health department. And that, we can definitely go out, and when we do charge a fee to the vendor, that fee is going to be charged to the vendor. So one of the things that's very important that we're working with other counties is to make sure that any type of information that comes in is done in a timely manner. The letters that went out to the different municipality does ask that we get 10 working days prior to the event. So there's plenty of time for us to make contact, let them know there's a fee involved and what that fee is.
Okay, can I ask this? Can I ask Mr. Maddox, Ms. Patrick, and maybe the chief kind of collaborate and come up with some wording for a memorandum of understanding that would benefit us? Can I ask the three of you? You could do it by phone, by Zoom, by whatever you want to do, and come up with a suggestion for us along that line.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right.
Yes, ma'am.
Let's do that, and I think we could have it, number one, in some legal language, as well as I do want us as a small city, whenever, especially where we have a college town and we have festivals that we plan to have in the future when this pandemic's over. It's not going to last forever, and fair and that kind of thing. We do want to be vendor friendly. However, we don't want just somebody to come out of 705 Portland Avenue and put up a table down there to sell hot dogs and make some money. We want to be vendor friendly, but we want to have some guidelines for what need to happen. Okay. Anybody else want to discuss anything on that?
Yeah,
Okay, ma'am.
Mr. Kraft, we did, the health department used to have an application for vendors.
Yes, ma'am.
And that could be a guideline for the city to go by.
Most definitely.
If we can use that same
Template, yeah.
application
Mhm.
for a vendor.
We can. I can make sure that Tiffany has copies of that forwarded on to you.
Okay. Would you send that to R Maddox at FortValleyGA.org? R Maddox at FortValleyGA.org, and Miss Patrick and the chief, and he will work on that. Yes, sir. You about to say something, Chief?
Miss Tiff, she gave us that the other day, so I'll get with Miss Patrick about it. We already had it in our
You already
possession.
got it. All right. Very good. Very good. All right. Then next on the agenda is the items to be discussed. The excessive call ordinance. We read it the first time, and it's supposed to be in the second reading. Has anybody had that ordinance and took a look at that and see if it's anything that we need to change about that before we put it on the agenda to vote on Thursday night?
No.
Anyone? Okay. That being the case, then, and you still may take it out if you want to, and do another little spruce up on it if you like to. I don't see any need for us to sit here during the meeting time and read that word for word in that we all can read. If it's with your blessings, we will add that to the agenda for Thursday night. Okay. For number 2. The planning and zoning vacancy announcement. Ms. Wright, are you there? Ms. Wright, you still on?
Yes, ma'am, I'm on.
How many vacancies we have for the planning and zoning board?
We have three vacancies, and 4 of the seats desire to be reappointed. So it's 7 in all.
7 in all, but some desire to be reappointed, you're saying?
Yes, ma'am. 4 desire to be reappointed.
And so we have 3 vacancies.
Yes.
That can be for a new person. If you want to find out and suggest somebody or research or have them to send a resume, we will announce that on Thursday night, and then we will plan to appoint at our November meeting. Okay? The next thing, and we made mention of this before, and we hadn't gone any further with it. That's number 3, the Downtown Development Authority vacancies. Mr. Bobby Barnes, Mr. What's the dentist's name?
Kendrick Matthews.
Yeah, Dr. Matthews. Was those the only 2? Oh, Javier Rodriguez. I think all of them were up for reappointment, and everybody, all of them, well, 2 of them said that they'd be glad to continue. One of them said they'd be glad to continue. The other 2 said if we needed them, they would continue until others are appointed if we had some interest. So I would suggest that we make that announcement again on Thursday night, and then we plan to make that appointment, whether it's to reappoint or to do some new people on in our November meeting. We okay with that? The next one, number 4, is the replacement of the city council at large vacancy. The discussion of that. We have 3 people who have reached out to us that may be interested in that position. One of them, we didn't get the resume from Mr. Yes, we did, from Mr. Henry Howard. We got one from Mr. Henry Howard. We got one from Mr. Rich Adamson, and we got one from Miss Tisa Horton. If you know of anyone else that would be interested, my suggestion also, again, would be that we plan to make that appointment at our November meeting. Keep that in mind and let people in those wards or in those districts that live in that district that it is open. It would be available until our next, the week before or the next work session. And then we'll plan to make that appointment in our November meeting. Any questions pertaining to that? Okay.
Oh, yes, ma'am, I do. I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
When will we see their resumes?
We can do that if we give it a little time before our next meetings start, when the first week in November, our committee meetings. If we have those resumes to put in your hand before the first week in November, would that be enough time for you to get a chance to read through it?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, let's do that. Mr. Maddox, if you're still there, help remind me of that, or Ms. Wright, help remind me of that. I don't think we have a need for an executive session this evening. I don't think we have a need for the executive session. Everything has been above board and transparent. Can anybody think of anything, because we would have needed to have done that when we approved the agenda, that needed to be added to that agenda?
When will we discuss the lawsuit?
Okay, Miss Patrick, we can go into executive session and discuss the status of that. Do we want to do that at this point? Okay, well then, what I'm going to ask is all of our guests, Miss Wright, if you would remove all of our guests from the Zoom, and let's leave all of our councilmen, the city attorney, our department heads, and staff members. Let's leave all of them in the Zoom at this point. And thank you so much for our visitors coming. And this is kind of like a little fireside chat that we need to do. And you will hear something from that, hopefully a little bit later on, but not hear anything from that. Thank you so much for coming. We'll stand down for about 3 minutes until that's done.
Mayor Williams,
Yes.
I would prefer to send out another link, because when people are requesting our meetings, I can't send them out because the executive sessions are in them. So if I could send out a link right quick to everyone and just leave.
Okay, that will work. That will work fine. If everybody would look at your email and see a new link now. I'm always IT challenged on that. So if I be the last one come in, let me go ahead, Miss Patrick. Let's stand down. You'll have to leave this meeting, guys, and then click into the other one. All right? Thank you so much.
Trying to leave.
Ms. Wright, go.
Kick me out. I can't. I'm on the.
Ms. Wright, go ahead and end this meeting.
Thank you.